So, hello guys, and thank you for joining me today. Today is... it's almost Christmas, but anyway, this game is developed by Chival Games and released in 2012. Lucius is a third-person horror adventure slash murder simulator that has everything from daily chores, murder, cult worship, to sex, lies and deceit. Ooh. You play the role of Lucius, who is apparently gifted with supernatural powers. In fact, that's actually a fact, otherwise you'll be quite bored. One would have thought that, having been born on June the 6th, 1966, that would have been a dead giveaway, no pun intended, but his parents are blissfully unaware what's about to happen. Before we move on, it's interesting to note that, for any eagle-eyed viewers out there, this does indeed pay homage to the 1976 horror classic The Omen, as well as to The Shining, which you'll no doubt find out. But it's also touted as a psychological horror, which I tend to disagree with. But anyway, on to the game. You start as Lucius Wagner, a 6-year-old boy who's the son of a US senator, and as you might imagine, is brought up among very privileged surroundings. Everything's hunky-dory until the devil Lucifer, in all his pinstripe-suited glory, rears his head by telling the poor little innocent Lucius to do his dirty work for some misdeeds earlier committed by the Wagner family. So little Lucius must commit horrid acts of murder. But in order to maintain an air of innocence about him, he must go about the initially daunting mansion, completing chores to keep himself in people's good books. This point is especially pertinent due to the introduction of Detective MacGuffin, who is initially sent to investigate the first murder, but who basically should have been charged rent, considering the amount of time he eventually ends up spending in the house the more murders that take place. In terms of gameplay, it's mixed bag really. While the skills and powers that Lucius acquires are fun to begin with, they quickly become tiresome. And to top it all off, some of them are context-based in that they can only really be used in certain scenarios, such as, for instance, I don't know, if someone just so happened to feel like swan diving onto a concrete slab perhaps? You know, the kind of thing that aristocrats get up to every day kind of thing? Though the game suffers from numerous bugs and graphical issues, strangely enough, the most annoying of which was the constant screen tearing, it doesn't really detract from what makes this game what it is, an on-rails inverted detective story. Rather much like Columbo, it's a detective story where the roles have been reversed. And herein lies the problem. It's that the linearity is so obvious from the very start. Though the mansion might seem big initially, it actually hinders and limits the player's ability to imagine there's anything beyond its four walls, metaphorically speaking. What makes matters worse is that the developers have given the player very little scope to be able to wander off the beaten track, to carry out these missions in their own particular way, and of course once you put that within a very limited landscape, what you get is a very boring experience. So, to conclude then, while Lucius is a sometimes fun, sometimes annoying exploration into the lives of the everyday aristocrat— oh, whoops, sorry, wrong line. While Lucius is a sometimes fun, sometimes charming exploration into a reversed detective story, one that is seldom seen, I do have to add, it's the game's setting compounded by the inability to deviate from the given path that is what ultimately brings this whole thing down. And so that's it from me. This is Tatsu signing off. Until next time folks, thank you very much, goodbye.